Yeah, no, definitely. Look, I think it started off before I even got there, and I think they had a destiny of growing. And I remember when they had a different chairman at that time, and then Roman came in, he bought the club. At that time, I was still at Chelsea, so I think from that moment I had to make an adjustment. Why the adjustment was different? Because we were kind of one of the early stages of being bought by somebody that was financially so successful. So being a part of a journey of a team like that, it was like instrumental PR wise. So any move we made, we hit. You understand the newspapers like crazy. So that was kind of a new development for us, because sometimes it was like they started talking to us like we were kind of. It was funny. They said like we were pop stars. I never felt myself as a pop star, my friend. I can tell you, because I don't know how to sing. I tried, but it didn't work. So going back to Mr. Abramovich, just how he built that team. He had an objective in success, because he was successful away from the game and then wanted to bring it into the game. And I think that's what he really achieved really well. So that's why I think we got a lot of attention. A lot of players came in. I think at one point we had 9 new players coming into the team. It did not matter, because as a footballer, you learn that when people say to us our jobs are easy, I always tell them, walk in my shoes one day and then you tell me if it's easy. Because if it's easy, everybody would have done it.
The VAR Show. The one place for your weekly football update.
Hola, very warm welcome to the VAR show, the show which talks about all the various major football leagues in detail. Today we are going to continue with interviews, and we have Mr. Mario Melchiot with us. So Mario has played for the likes of Chelsea, Ajax, Netherlands, to name a few, and in a very successful and illustrious career. So without wasting much time, I'd like to first thank Mario for coming on the show. Thank you and welcome to the show. And I would like to begin by asking you, how are you and what are you doing these days?
No, I'm very good. I mean, look, I stopped playing the game, and now as a person, I enjoy myself as talking about the game on TV. I explain to people that are happy to watch me talk about it. So that's one. And on the other side, I'm also a TV producer that enjoys bringing stories to people. So those are the two things that really keep me busy, and then the happiness of my friends and family.
Of course, you said that you stopped playing. How difficult was it, to take a decision to stop playing?
It was, like I had an agreement with my mother, and I was fortunate to have, being blessed with a mom like that. I said to her, look, I'm going to play the game, Mom, till I enjoy it. And I enjoyed the game. And then one day I woke up and I said to myself, Mom, I feel I'm ready for the next step. And she looked at me and she said, she said, if you're ready for it, I'm ready for it too. And I think the key thing in me retiring from football was the support of my mother. If she stood by me, I knew I would make the right decision. I never look back and thinking that I made a wrong decision.
Of course, and you have played for some amazing clubs and also for a national team. When you look back, how do you look back at your career?
I look back at it and I think it was a lot of fun, and I enjoyed it. As a child, I had a dream. I think I was 5 years old, and I always wanted to impress my older brother. And when I was 5, I started playing for a local team. I was fortunate to join Ajax at 9 years old, and it was only because of him. Because as a child, I didn't want to join Ajax because I just wanted to play the team that he played for. And Ajax was not my goal at that time. At that time, Ajax came across. They asked me twice to join them. I went in and I performed to a standard where I hit the first team. And then after that, I knew this is the destiny of me and my brother. We spoke. And he said, England will be a great country. And I mean, the rest became history. I just enjoyed myself in England. So that's how I went up.
Of course, I had this doubt, you were at Ajax. Ajax was, when you were playing, it was it is still a very big giant. But back then, it was amazing. One of the superpowers. Why did you move to England? Was it something you always wanted to play in a foreign country, or was it a spontaneous decision?
No, it was a decision of this. Look, when you're a Dutch guy and you grow up in Amsterdam, Ajax is, arguably one of the biggest teams, in this country. But you know that if you want to attack the world, you need to go to a country where the world can see you and see you perform. And the key thing is when you want to be seen, you got to play against the best. And for me, the best was in England. That's why I wanted to go to England. And my brother made it clear to me. He actually introduced me to the English game. And from that on, I just moved in and started to excel. And I never looked back because England always been a country that I love. That's why I will always be connected to London.
Of course, like when you went there, you played for Chelsea, and like when you were there at Chelsea, the new reign of Roman Abramovich was just starting out, and now it's been quite a while, quite a successful reign that he has had till now. How has the club changed? Like you would of course know, like when it started until now, how have they developed?
Yeah, no, definitely. Look, I think it started off before I even got there, and I think they had a destiny of growing. And I remember when they had a different chairman at that time, and then Roman came in, and he bought the club. At that time, I was still at Chelsea. So I think from that moment, I had to make an adjustment. Why the adjustment was different? Because we were kind of one of the early stages of being bought by somebody that was financially so successful. So being a part of a journey of a team like that, it was like instrumental PR wise. So any move we made, we hit, you understand, the newspapers like crazy. So that was kind of a new development for us, because sometimes it was like they started talking to us like we were kind of it was funny, they said like we were pop stars. I never felt myself as a pop star, my friend, I can tell you, because I don't know how to sing. I tried, but it didn't work. So going back to Mr. Abramovich, just how he built that team. He had an objective in success, because he was successful away from the game and then wanted to bring it into the game. And I think that's what he really achieved really well. So that's why I think we got a lot of attention. A lot of players came in. I think at one point we had 9 new players coming into the team. It did not matter, because as a footballer, you learn that when people say to us, our jobs are easy, I always tell them, walk in my shoes one day and then you tell me if it's easy. Because if it's easy, everybody would have done it.
Of course, like, and I wanted to touch on that. Like you said, like how like new players are coming in because the hierarchy wanted success, and they of course got success. So being a a player, was it scary? Were you scared when new players are coming in? Like your position was a threat?
No, because I think competition is part of the game. And I think if you want to be a footballer and you can't handle competition, I don't think professional football is for you. I think when you look at certain competition, it's the only thing that I enjoyed, but I don't live competition right now. When you are surrounded by your loved ones, you don't want to bring competition in it. But when you are competing for something, the competition has to be at the highest level that you can even play for. And I think that was the joy that I had in football, and the fear I never really had, because fear, I have to say, it probably doesn't come across, you understand, like people will think, but the biggest fear in my life was my mother. If my mother was angry, I was scared. But away from that, no one would fear me.
Of course, like I wanted to touch one more thing, that you have played in quite a lot of league, like the French league or the Dutch league where you started, and then also the Premier League. How different was it? Like, like as a player, how did you have to adjust your game style, playing in the different leagues?
It was very well. Look, if you look at Holland, Holland is very technically and tactically very, very high level, you understand? And then when you look at England, it's especially now, because we have a great mix in England. And I think when I came there, you had that already. So it was technically, but then they also have that motivation. It's just on a different level. I'd never seen anything like that. When I came from Holland, I thought I knew football. When England really woke me up from football, because mentally wise, it's just a different level. Then you come across, when I went to France, I thought I had seen it all. But then it kind of readjusted me, in the sense of like the technique and the speed was on a level that I thought I would have found in Amsterdam. But in France, I thought it was a step higher, because I felt like technically and speed-wise, it was just very, very powerful. And I learned that, and it was good that I went away from England for a year, came back to England, because I felt at home there, and that was the football that I wanted. I always felt like football, what really enjoyed me was the entertainment around it. And when you play in the Premier League, it's just 90 minutes entertainment, and that's what I really love.
Of course, again another thing which might be again you might have a lot of names, but like as a defender, which opposition was the toughest you ever faced?
I always say, like I felt like Ryan Giggs was my biggest one. Why? Not because I when I played in the games against him, I always enjoyed it. And people will say Cristiano Ronaldo, but why I cannot call Cristiano Ronaldo? Because he only spent like maybe 10 minutes against me, and he would move back to the other side. Why? Because the manager knew that, when we played against Mr. Ferguson, his teams, I never really thought that I had to stay back. And I felt like Ryan Giggs was the only one that would track me down and also try to dribble me. And when you have a great competition with a player that does whatever, and is also a great player, because we cannot, I'm with respectively saying he was arguably one of my favorite players to watch. And then facing him, it's just speed and power, and the dribble that he had was just so successful. So that's why for me to face a player like that, it was always fun, and he always brought me to the highest level of my game. That's why I enjoyed it.
Of course, and that's a very worthy worthy player you have chosen. And I wanted to touch another topic is like you started your career in the mid 1990s and you went on to play till 2010s. And how has the game developed, or how has the game changed? In that time period till now, in your experience.
I think, look, when I was playing, the game was always being won by the middle of the park. And I think that people sometimes, look, we have lines in the team, you understand, the defensive line, the midfielders, and the attacking. But where you find the balance is in the heart of the team, and I think it's in the middle of the park. That's why systems are always changing. Sometimes you play with the point forward, with three in the middle, sometimes with the point back. So it just depends how people want to play. When the point back, only one man in front of the defense, and two up front is more the attacking philosophy, and sometimes the other way around. But I feel like now how it changed is just the speed. Games become more cramped. They were already cramped when I was playing because, look, when you play for a team like Ajax, you always have the ball, and you always have to think, how can we break people down? But Chelsea, if you're winning the games, you understand, it's like the last 2 seasons, we were going for the title. We were pushing on to get there and closer and closer. That's why we turned second, and then they start winning it. So what their focus is in the middle of the park. It becomes so cramped, and that's why you have to anticipate really fast. And that's why I think the speed of the game is always getting faster and faster. And I think that is the difference between my time and their time. The speed of the game is always picking up. That does not mean that the level is so much of a difference, but I do think that players have to think faster, and that will make them better.
Of course, you said that, and you gave good explanation about that. And I wanted to ask you, most of the people, at least I know who come out of Ajax, get into coaching because from a small age they have been tactically sound. Did you ever want to get into coaching?
No, I knew already when I was playing I would not be a coach. I enjoy playing the game, and I enjoy coming on TV and even talking to the likes of yourself, talking about the game and really enjoying myself. I love the game. I love it like a fan. I love it with passion. But standing on a touchline and then being a coach, that's not something that I highly would entertain. But what I do entertain and what I do like is bringing knowledge to younger kids. And that's what I really look at. So when I have someone younger in front of me, I would not mind to focus on getting the individual better than what he is already. But if I would go out and stand in front of a team on a daily basis, that will be slightly different for me. So that's why I wanted to play the game, and that's why I work on TV now, because I do want to bring them the knowledge, especially to kids that don't have the possibility to sometimes get the highest knowledge. That's the one I want to focus on.
Of course, and I wanted to ask you, were you a difficult player to manage?
No, I wasn't actually. No, I don't think I had managers. I don't think they really had to look after me, because I was a guy that grew up, and I lived by the saying of, my mom used to say that. She said to me when I was a younger boy, she said, "Don't be a tough man here. You understand? Try to be it at football." So when I came on the field, I always wanted to win. And as long as I think if you show managers that you want to win every moment you step on the field, that's already one of the problems away from them. And I think that sometimes, I'm not talking about professionals because they all want to win. But if people that want to be pros, they have to realize that the game is being played to win it and not to draw.
Of course, and staying the same theme, if you had to choose one coach who had the most influence in your career as a whole, who would that be?
Would be Louis van Gaal, because when I started playing as a player, you always look at a manager that really picks you up. I was a young boy, I was at school, and my first time I was literally at school, and they reached out to me that I had to come to Ajax, and I was going to make my debut with the first team. So all that momentum, all that thing was the debut I made in the opening day of the arena. They called now the Johan Cruyff Stadium. So I made my debut in that one. Then I moved on. He made me play a number of games, and then when I came to the national team and he became the coach, he called me again, and he selected me for the national team. So he had a strong belief in me, and I strongly believed that for a younger player like myself, especially at that time, he was very instrumental for me.
Of course, since you played for him for quite a different periods in different teams, and also you had a lot of experience in Premier League, I wanted to ask you this. It's been quite a while that Louis van Gaal was, sacked from United. Why do you think it did not work out for him there?
That I can't know because, look, he's a manager that's at an opposite team. I didn't look like as a player. I just think that it didn't work out. And sometimes a manager needs more time. And I think time at a team like Man United, with all the respect, because you understand, I don't want to talk about a team that I know enough about, but I just say, I'm sure that they already tapped into it. But I just think that he needed more time. I think time is for every crucial manager, especially as his criteria. He needed more time to get what he wanted. And I think the time was not being given to him. So that's why they had to make the change. And I think that was one of the key things, because you could see that what he was trying to make. He was trying to push younger players through, give them the opportunity, and then try to build his own team. And that time, the club didn't want to wait for. So that's why the sad period came to an end.
Of course, I'll stay with the similar theme and with your another club, that was Chelsea, and they are doing quite well now. They finished, I think, fourth, and with under Frank Lampard, and they have spent well till now in the season. What they have coming ahead? What do you think? What is the realistic target for them in the coming season?
I think they need to find a balance in the defensively, in the team. And as soon as they have that, because I think they went for a lot of attacking players. I think the midfield, they kind of stacked up. You understand? I don't think that is one of the key focus points where they're focusing on, because I think they have that. So I think defensively, doesn't want to say that they definitely have to fix it up. So meaning to say that what they have to make better, because you always make better what you have. And if you add something, it has to add more, and it should not be similar. So, because I think some of the players are similar, and that's why it's very tricky to pick. If they have that all on the board and make it look as good what I expect him to do, because as a manager, he knew exactly, you understand, the balance was key in the team. So I don't expect Frank to do any different. So that's why this is the season, what is coming now. He needs to start thinking about how can I win the league. And I know it's a big step. And it will be a tough step to take, because if you look at the Liverpool side, how great they perform. If you look at City, it's a great team, but they still didn't manage to win it. Then Chelsea's got some boots to fill, but I don't feel like a club like that should ever think they can't, because they can.
Of course, and the next question is, of course, of your another club, and this is a very personal question for me, because I like them a lot. I like Ajax a lot, and but it's very sad to see, the way they have, before they were one of the big teams in Europe, they still are, but you don't expect them to win Champions League. Like last year when they reached the semi-final, it was like a big deal, which it should not be for Ajax, reaching the semi-final. So what do you think is, will they ever reach the heights, under what they were under Louis van Gaal, back then?
They can win the heights, but people have to be honest, We have in this country 17 million people. So, like I said, you understand, as a child, later on, I wanted to play for the first team of Ajax. In the beginning, my dreams were totally different because my goal was just to impress my brother. And then I knew that if I played at Ajax, I could keep the impression going and hit the first team. So as a first team player, when I came in that team, I think it's a very well system development, getting you to the first team. But then afterwards, you got to look at the world because that's where you want to test yourself to the highest level. Because it happens at Ajax quite often. You understand? There's a lot of top players that leave that team. It will be always tough for them. So that's why they always have to wait till they get like a bunch of like 11, because normally your bench has to be good too, 14, 15 players that has to be good. They then can compete for one of the things in Europe. And sometimes it takes time to get to that level again. And fortunately, they had that. And then they sold a lot of players again. So they got to rebuild again. So the rebuilding, the reaction to what is happening in the market is always key for Ajax and what they have that they let go. So I think always the adjustment, if the adjustment and the timing is right, I definitely see Ajax winning a big trophy again.
Of course, and hopefully they do so. I don't know, it was a rumor, I think they were linked with Luis Suarez. I think that was just a rumor that was going around.
No, because Luis Suarez is one of the guys that the only time I met Luis Suarez was at Ajax actually, because I was sitting in the players' lounge and he walked up and he said hi, he introduced himself. It was super nice. I liked him as a person. I don't know him away from that moment because there's only one moment I literally had the moment to talk to him. But yeah, it would be great to see him back at Ajax. But you just have to see, you understand, what do we have? And we know what he can bring because he was already here. So I can imagine that I would love him to come back. And now it's just down for him if he feels like, is this the right move for him to make?
Of course, and I'll get to a more lighter topic, about your career. If you were not a footballer, what would you have been?
I would be a policeman. I always wanted to be a policeman. And my dream was like being a policeman because I always thought about the cars and the bikes. And I thought like, if I can achieve something like that, that would be a lot of fun. So that's why, yes, my move would be, why can I not be a policeman? And then eventually I end up, falling in love even more with the football game. And that's why I moved into the direction that I'm till today happy for the choice that I made.
Of course, and on a personal note, you have traveled you have a lot of experience because you have traveled far and wide in terms of football. You also played in Qatar, I think, at one stage. And what is the most bizarre incident that you ever came across in football?
Bizarre, I don't want to say. I don't really have bizarre moments. I just think that I went to certain coaches, and I think the difference in coaches was kind of interesting for me. Coming from a Dutch boy that grew up and born in Amsterdam, I had to learn, and I think the adaptment was very important, and that's why I focused really highly on how can I adapt really quickly to a culture that's different than where I'm from? So when I went to France, you understand, the French people, they the food is very respectful. They have a great kitchen. So things like that. When I went to Qatar, the religion is very important. So you got to show respect to that. And it was good because coming in Amsterdam, you might know that religion of the Muslim religion, but seeing it there is a whole different ballgame. So I had to really learn and understand, like sometimes if the prayer is in the dressing room, show the guys respect and give them the time to pray. So things like that were new for me. When it comes to England, it's just the toughness of the English mind of saying like, come on, you can do this. So that was kind of like, if I talk about, I don't want to call it bizarre, I want to talk about it was new for me. And I think that was things that really made me to the person to understand what the difference was in culture and how important it is for the human being to travel and to understand that.
Of course, and I wanted to ask you, we are getting to the end, and I wanted to ask you, what is the most proudest moment in your career?
The most proudest moment in my career is that I promised my family that I would show them the world. And I think football made me do that. And after I retired, you understand, I managed to show them the world in a way that I always dreamed of. So I think that's one of my proudest moments because having your family, you understand, being part of your journey, and a man can only achieve things if he carries his family with him. Because if not, it does not count. That's what I think.
Of course, and like I wanted to ask you another question that it can be a very very basic question. Okay, I don't know why I'm asking. I just feel like asking. I'm asking you, what does football mean to you?
Football is one of the best sports in the world. I don't think there's any sport that I would love more than I love football. You understand? I enjoy it. I get entertained by it. When I watch it, it's really something that really drives me. And I think that's why it's very key, because when you watch football, when I was a young boy, I always used to think, what would I have done in that situation? Now I'm an older man and I understand the football on a higher level, and you can think about it a little bit better. I still think that this game will live forever and will always be part of my life. And that's why I will always enjoy it.
Of course, and like if you had to give a piece of advice to a young player who's just starting out his career or her career, what advice would you give that player?
If I would give the advice is that, you understand, no matter what people tell you about your dreams, because on your journey to success, people will tell you that you can't. Find the solution that is always out there and make yourself a better player and person every day, because that is how you will achieve and become better.
Of course, like I wanted to ask you, like everyone says, like you need to better yourself. Like some days you just like you have those days, like where nothing is going for you. How do you go forward with that? Like like when everything is against you.
That is actually the question that everybody gets asked, and it's actually the moment that everybody goes through. You know what the key thing is for me? What I always feel is that it does not matter what other people tell you about your dream. Your dream is your dream, and you need to work to achieve it. No one else has to tell you about your dream if it's possible or not. You need to get up and move every day, because in the world where we live in are a lot of complainers, but only a few people are looking for solutions. Be the person that looks for the solution and don't be the complainer, because that's an easy option.
Of course, that's a very good advice. And like on that note, I'll ask you one final question. And this is a very controversial question, Mario. You need to think and answer. It is even more controversial than when you go to TV to do the punditry, and you have to maybe in a few days' time you have to decide who comes out top four in the Premier League. It's more controversial than that. Whom do you prefer, Ronaldo or Messi?
Oh, for me, it's very easy. I don't know why people are just making that a difficult thing. I like both players. That's one thing, and I admire both players. You understand? If you don't love football. If you don't admire both, you don't love football. And the key thing for me is that I only played against Ronaldo, and because of that reason, I had more time to spend to focus on that player. That's why I picked Ronaldo, because I feel like Ronaldo is one of the players that I know what he went through to get to where he is today. With Messi, I didn't know. Does it make Messi a less good player? Hell no. I would be crazy if I say that, and I would be disrespectful. But if I have to pick one, Cristiano would be my guy.
Of course. And like on that note, Mario, thank you so much for talking to me, and I wish you all the best with your career, in TV, whatever you're doing, and I wish you all the best and for future endeavors, and hope we can talk again soon. Take care, stay safe, bye.
Thank you so much.